Welcome to Creating the Muse Podcast, brought to you by Into Pages. This is a space where creativity takes center stage and entrepreneurship becomes an art form. Join us as we dive into the stories of visionary individuals who have harnessed their inner muse to build thriving businesses and craft lives of passion and purpose. Through insightful interviews, practical tips and transformation ideas, we'll explore the endless possibilities that arise when you unlock your true creative potential. Welcome to another episode of Creating the Muse Podcast. I'm your host, Indiana Holly, and today we have the privilege of delving into the transformational world of embodiment through the lens of art with the remarkable Lisa Ray. Lisa not only is a talented photographer, poet, storyteller, and artist, but also is an extraordinary soul who skillfully captures the essence of shape-shifting women through the powerful imagery. Her work delves into the interplay of darkness and elegance, unveiling the beauty that emerges from the depths. For the past 15 years, Lisa has masterfully exhibiting her own fine art collection while working with one of Australia's most established post-production studios. Having created images for big brands such as Specsavers, Mecca Cosmetics and Treasury Wine Estate, just to name a few, Lisa is now collaborating with heart-centered entrepreneurs bringing their visions to life. Lisa's work serves as a conduit for the conversation between art and nature, where each image encapsulates the essence of transformation, the timeless allure of the feminine spirit. Welcome, Lisa. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Indiana. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's an absolute honour and pleasure.
Oh, the honour's all mine. And I just have to say, I'm absolutely in awe in your artwork in the background, which is perfect for today's conversation.
A bit of an oasis.
Yes, definitely. I love it. So just to kick off, tell us a little bit about your journey as a photographer and artist and what was inspired you to pursue this creative path.
So when I was quite young, I knew that I had a joy for photography and capturing moments and memories. And so that led me to actually finding a different high school way back when, where I could really focus on the creative arts. And from there, found my way after a long, maybe 4, 5, 6 delayed years into studying at RMIT in Melbourne. So I actually studied a Bachelor of Photography just over 3 years and loved photographing people primarily. But again, kind of pulled in various directions and ended up retouching. So actually working on other photographers' images for quite a period of time. But in that, it really, I guess, being around imagery in itself, and then also finding that moment where it was like, no, it's time for me to create my own, is kind of where that transition then happened for me to create images full time.
Wow. I guess it's given you that lovely balance of the real technical skills of fixing other people's edits for their retouching. So you're perfecting that skill, and then you've decided, okay, now it's time to go out on my own and become visible with your art. Is that right?
Yeah, and there was a moment when I was still working with the agency and I was also photographing for them as well. That's where I was doing a lot of product photography. So I guess, again, those technical skills, there is that baseline, which I think you can throw all that out the window and create beautiful art, or you can kind of have that in the back of your mind that helps to, bring those visions to life if you've got those kind of tools, but to be used really loosely, because I think throwing them around and turning things upside down is a really beautiful way to create as well.
I love that.
But yeah, there was a moment where I had 3 beautiful sisters come into the studio. One was a colleague actually, and she came in with her sisters, and that was really powerful in itself, the power of 3 and these beautiful women. And we created some portraits for them, which they wanted to share with their mum. And it was such a beautiful process. And afterwards, I kind of just questioned myself, why am I not doing this in my way? And I think that was almost like, you know, one of many turning points for me to really look at myself and ask myself, why not? So that was a really beautiful kind of mini pivot point for me to do that.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you kind of, like you said, I love the power of three. Like that just feels like it symbolizes something to have them all three elements come into play for you to be ignited that way. So, and I guess that's my next question to you is being in that corporate kind of professional arena and then following that real heart-centered focus of having those three women come in. I mean, what would be the context and kind of like like you said, the pivotal shift of changing your focus with your work?
I think that at that time there was great changes that were taking place on many levels in my world. And so some of those that were reflecting like on a deep personal level of letting go, of change, of renewal, of revisiting myself. And I guess again it's like putting that mirror to myself um, and learning or revisiting, reigniting and returning to who I was, who I am, without all those, you know, expectations, career expectations, and many which I might have put on myself. It was time to change what felt right for me. And, you know, creativity and image making was such a big part of that change, because I keep coming back to this analogy of the mirror, because, you know, there was moments that just felt difficult and felt challenging, and I was looking for something deeper. So to turn in my own time away from the corporate world, it was just coming into that quiet space and putting the mirror up to myself in this instance, which was the camera,
Mm.
um, and allowing that to be a conversation with myself of really of feeling, if that makes sense. So I guess to bring it back is so much change, which I think it all takes place on that internal level, and then everything else came into play, because as I was changing, everything else around me looked different and felt different.
Mm. Such a great answer. I just visualized when you were saying the lens became like that mirror image of your life that you were going through and you wanted that reflected. It's such a unique and different concept for in photography. Like I know when I was doing market research for an article that I wrote for you, there is nothing like that that has that real kind of embodiment of the storytelling concept of having that mirrored to you in imagery about the journey that you're delving into in that moment. So I guess why that's the birth of the depth of her photography experience. Can you tell us a bit about that fascinating concept and how that evolved?
Yeah, so that all started again through this journey of change. So for me, I guess it started with, it was self-portraits, because it was always me and myself. I was there, I was feeling this experience. So there would be moments where, and looking back, I guess it always has been quite ceremonial, because it was, there was a preparation before the photo shoot. It always began with a feeling. So it could have been an overwhelming feeling of anything on that big, beautiful spectrum of emotions and feelings that we have. And that needed to come out, that wanted to come out. So, you know, there was the setting of the space, there was a preparation of my space, and then not necessarily a preconceived idea of what the outcome would be, but just allowing maybe how the light was in that moment, how I was feeling, how the body wanted to move or not move. So it became an exploration of the depths of myself through the depths of my journey, because really it's like diving into the light. So it was like diving into those depths to revisit. You can't plant a beautiful seed without that deep, dark, fertile soil.
Mm.
So initially it was about going into this space, and these beautiful images would bloom. And then, so from something that probably started as a personal experience, has then bloomed into the depth of her experience, where I can offer these photography well, really they are at their core an embodied photography experience, because there's always that opportunity to, it's a really felt experience. So there could be movement, there could be stillness, there could be voice, and it's multi-layered. It's all the depths.
Which is a bit like you, isn't it? Very multi-layered with your creativity.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
right.
that. And I guess coming in as somebody who would be a client that came into, had seen those images and wanted to kind of express that same embodiment, but was quite, it would have to feel quite vulnerable to, like you said, delving into the depth to the depths of yourself for that bloom to come out in the images. I guess my question to you is, with regards to that, clearly intuitive embodiment practices that you set to contain the environment, how do you, like, what is the space in itself, and what are some of the tips that you bring to kind of alleviate that vulnerability, but bring that natural aspect of themselves out into photography? So could you step us through that?
Yeah. So really, the depth of her photography experience meets you exactly where you're at. And there would be no two photo sessions that are exactly the same. So as an example, sometimes, or many of these have taken place out in nature, and nature is there to hold you. And then, so again, there is always that that space setting and that preparation. And what's really important is for me to come together with who I'm photographing. And I'm not just photographing you. We're coming together and we're aligning within the space, within the energy of the day, the energy of the space, the energy of you, of me. And it really is this beautiful co-creation. So it's a meeting of each other first and foremost, so that we set that safe container. And then there's a lot of breathing. So I think that's why so many women walk away feeling fabulous, because they've breathed into their body, they've cleansed, they've rejuvenated. But there is also this beautiful light framework of moving through the energy centers of the body. So this is matched with essential oils. Love bringing in the plants into my work. But we'll always start with grounding. So that could be, or is always setting an intention for this beautiful and special experience and process. There's breathing, there's hands on body. Once we're feeling grounded and we're in the space, and you're in that felt sensation of the body, then we start to move the energy up, and we might move and play and bring some joy and coming to that really beautiful feminine aspect. And we move up through these various expressions of self. So as I mentioned, every experience is different. It depends on how deeply you want to fold into yourself.
I love that.
That's felt along the way.
The folded, and clearly when you're talking about energy centers and embodiment practices, you do have that wellness aspect to your services, don't you? Because you are a yoga teacher trainer. Is that, you have done yoga, is that correct?
Yes, so I studied my Hatha Vinyasa training in 2018, and also yin yoga and various other well-being practices along the way. So it feels really beautiful to bring all the depths of self to offer in these experiences, because I can understand. I'm not on the other side of the camera very often, but when I have been, I've felt it. I can
It's
feel it. I know
beautiful.
how that feels. So it's my primary intention for you to feel safe, to feel held through the whole experience, and to give yourself the permission to move, to be still, to play, to open, to come within. Like everything is welcome in this space of the depth of her photography experience.
It's such a unique way of conveying emotion with narrative together in your work. So, and you do, looking at your images, I do feel the emotion when you do the self-portraits, or looking at your clients' imagery. I feel it. Like there's something, it's not like, for special occasions in society, we're always, you get photography done for, I don't know, big 50th or weddings or births, but you've kind of taken it, you've really delved in deeper to the emotions of and those milestones and capturing those. So I guess what is the outcome of those unique expressions? Have you seen an evolution into after, like you said, women come and they feel really relieved because they have done all that amazing breath work. But I guess from a ceremonial point of view, have you seen any actual changes within women that have come through that experience and captured themselves in that moment?
I have. I've witnessed that many of the women that have come to have their photograph taken and have gone through this experience, they become more, or they feel more comfortable in being visible, because they've allowed themselves this opportunity to be seen in such a way of depth and truth and wholeness,
Mm.
that they then have these beautiful images to remind themselves of truly who they are. And I think that, this, is this a photography experience, or is this a healing experience? It's both, but
Yeah.
it's one kind of one moves through the other. So by coming into the experience, you might get to just visit these feelings and sensations and expressions moving through the body, that then when you have these beautiful images in front of you, you can see that. You can see that, and you've always got that beautiful reminder. So I often see women using these photographs or sharing these photographs. It might be a very personal experience, and you keep them so dearly close to yourself for that remembrance, or some women have shared them to help express their own journey. And I think that, to me, that is this beautiful whole full coming back on the circle of where it came from, because it was a vehicle of expression through my personal journey, and now I'm able to share that with women as an opportunity for them to see, sense, and feel who they are, and choose to share that with the world if they wish.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of like that because it's so vulnerable and embodied. It's that you were saying that some of your clients are actually using these photos for their branding. So I guess what resonates with me is it is that human connection, of that felt feeling, and those photos, like being able to share them so vulnerably, but as your branding as well. Like, what better way to connect with your audience to feel you that way?
I think a lot of the women that I work with um, are either curious about the wellbeing space or in the wellbeing space, and their clients, for their clients to see them as real and who they are, I think then has that flow-on effect for their clients to feel that safety within their presence as well.
Yeah, yeah, so true. feel like all the sessions that I've ever had in photography, and I would say to you, I'm just dying to come to Melbourne to do one of these sessions with you, because I know going into a photography session, you do tend to wear a lot of masks. You know, when you got your anxiety, you're putting on this persona, and just to be able to go through that full experience and see what it'd be interesting to look at a photo session of having all those masks and those narratives in your head versus a photo session with yourself and then mirroring those. It'd be so extraordinary to see the
Yes.
transformation and the difference within that. So
Yes. And I think those moments when the mask comes off, that I think that is what we're feeling when you see the image and you can feel what you're seeing, because I know that in the experience itself, when I'm photographing you, I can feel when that moment happens. You know, there might be more than one click of the shutter, but it's in that moment. It's like when I see you and you see me seeing you and you feel that moment, I can feel that that's the photo, and that's what you feel when you're looking back.
it's beautifully said. I feel it. I love your work. I'm so in awe of your talent. And I feel that you not only have this ability to make women bloom through the depths of her, but your art. Just looking behind you, you've got these beautiful pieces behind you with the orchid and the tulips, and just being able to have that dance with nature and beauty. Like, where do you go to tap into that inspiration of creativity?
I feel like nature and flowers have always been part of my world in some way, shape, or form. Um, when I was younger, I used to call it petal soup.
Oh,
Unbeknownst to me, it's like making tinctures or things. But
yeah.
I used to walk around the local neighborhood and find beautiful flowers and then make petal soup, but with water and the petals, and I'd place the petals around in what I now know is like a mandala shape, but back then was just a
You would have
pretty.
known as a yeah. I love that.
Um, and my mum studied floristry, so she has a connection with flowers. She's a
Wow.
great green thumb. We had a beautiful veggie garden in the family home, and my grandmother, her middle name was Rosemary. My great grandmother had Daisy in her name. So there's just these
Wow.
beautiful little things trickling down. But for me, it's almost like, and I think it's a meditative experience, that when I would be out walking out in nature, or even just in the local neighborhood with all the beautiful natural trees and plants, so I would come into this stillness, which then created an openness and an expansiveness, and it was almost like a communication taking place with the plants and myself. And then I would get really curious and dive a little deeper into if these little inklings that I was getting about what the plant was saying in terms of how it looked and how that might energetically affect us. And then I would look up some things about this plant, and it would marry up. So I then learned that there is a thing, plant communication, and it is a really beautiful language that I
Oh,
like to say that we all have, if we can just find that stillness to be quiet enough to listen.
that's
Yeah.
so beautiful. I love that. So I'm with you. I'm all about flowers. Even just the power of linking flowers to my self-worth and how I feel about me, and how I go out and buy weekly flowers to as a sign of my own worthiness. Like they're just this beautiful, but you've got them in imagery around you, which is spectacular.
We just don't need to change the water with these ones.
No, absolutely love that. So Yes, you pretty much touched on it, but this month theme for creating the Muse magazine is all about unveiling the beauty of embodiment, emotions, and art inspired by you as the feature. So I guess I wanted to ask you, what does creating the Muse mean to you personally, and does how does it align to your own creative journey?
Creating the muse to me personally means diving towards the light,
Mm.
and revisiting that inner creative beauty that we all are and embody and express in so many beautiful various ways.
Such a great answer. I love that so much. um, And I guess for anyone that is inspiring who wants to do similar photography or capture art similar to what you do, what advice would you give to an entrepreneur who's seeking to have that creative expression but is not quite confident yet?
um, to visit something like the depth of her experience, or to
Good
create the
answer.
images themselves.
I
Because
love that.
I think both, looking at self-portraiture as an example, as a vehicle for self-expression and self-creativity and self-conversation, that in itself, I think, is a really beautiful and powerful way to explore your depths. We all most of us probably have a camera on our phone. You don't need a camera with all the bells and whistles. Um, you could almost even have an actual mirror and have this as an
Mm,
experience for yourself. Um, whether you're taking that time to hold yourself and see yourself, or if you're coming in for such a beautiful experience to be seen and be held and have these images, I think both are incredibly powerful in a way that you can remember who you are.
oh, I love that. And it's such a sovereign way. Like, we live in a world now of selfies and perfection and taking photographs, but flipping that narrative and actually having something for yourself and taking imagery from how you're feeling and setting the environment and the embodiment practices to be able to experiment with that yourself. And like
Mm.
you said, with the mirror, and I know there's images you've had of the candles, and it's just been what a difference that is. Such a sovereign way to take imagery of yourself, a complete opposite of what we're experiencing in today's society.
You said that so beautifully and so perfectly. I don't want to say the word perfectly because there's so much beauty in imperfection, but you
Yes,
said that
yeah.
so wonderfully that, um, a lot of the time photography can be seen as we're taking photos of how we look. Um, but to have photos of how we feel, and to have photos of a reminder of, I keep saying, a reminder of who you are, where you've come from, it's actually really beautiful, even in my own journey, to look back on the photos that I took for myself to explore my depths. I can go back and I can see who I was, who I am, and it's just like, wow, like, to witness the truth and the depth and the change is is quite profound and quite a beautiful, when we can go back into, like a past self meditation, or revisit our child self, or revisit our future self, it feels like this really beautiful honoring of, revisiting all parts of ourselves. So I'll probably continue to dive into these depths, now and then, and, kind of, it's a way to bring everything together, and yeah, that sense of wholeness.
I love that. I guess that was my next question, was how do you approach personal growth and evolution, both as an artist and as a woman? So I think
Mhm.
you've just answered that so beautifully, and capturing it's actually just capturing the journey and honoring that. So
Yeah.
yeah. Are there any other tools that you use as part of your evolution and your growth?
Um, Personally, I notice that as I change and grow, the tools that I use for myself and my journey change and grow. Some stay, some grow with me, and some have had their beautiful time and might no longer be needed. But something that really is always with me is plant oils, so essential
Mm.
oils. Um, I'm such a sensory person, so I love bringing in, scent and touch and sound. So they are all things that I use in some way, shape, or form. Um, Something that I find really helpful is like I have the egg rattles, so some shakers, and just that's an element there of I can feel them, I can hear them, I can
Mm.
shake them, I can move my body. That's a way for me to get out of any sense of stagnancy or stillness and to get things moving again. I find that really helpful for me.
Wow, you are such a um like you said, a sensory creature, but you have this real ability to be in the moment. Like these tools that you're like the smell of the oils, or the, like you said, the shakers, or being out and looking at flowers in nature. Like you just seem to have that characteristic of really embodying that. So it's just
I
so
think I think
rare.
it's so important because I can get quiet in my mind and think about everything. So I think that's why these types of practices are so important to me, and that I do love to share within these special photography experiences. As an example, is because there is so much that can pull us out of center if we allow it to, and it happens. There is
Yeah.
also so much that can bring us back into center should we choose, and whether that is through scent or sound or touch or taste, like any of the senses, and magnificently if you bring all of those senses in at the same
Ah,
time. um I think that helps just to come back into presence, and from that space is so much truth of who you are, because you're here. Yeah.
yeah. And do you find when you give yourself that space and that time that your creativity does flourish? Like you have ideas that pop in, and whereas if you're crowding yourself with social media or crowding yourself with doing, you're less susceptible to have those, as I call them, pings drop in.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's a lot of, when we're a little more outside of ourselves, there's a lot more noise, so we don't have that quiet receptive state kind of awake and open. So it's almost, yeah, the more we can, there's something that I wrote when it's kind of relevant. When we see, sense, or feel the light inside of us, the world outside of us illuminates.
Ooh,
I think it's, yeah, bringing in everything that we can feel, see, sense, and know. It's like it allows all of our senses to be present and to be awake, and that deeper sense of embodiment that we have, I think, can the less rocked we can get from all that external noise.
yeah, yeah. Is that why you said something about going away to the Blue Mountains? So is that kind of one of the tools that you use to not disconnect? I don't like using that word, but kind of, that's a nice way of putting it. Like just
Yeah.
to,
Well, there is that saying, disconnect to reconnect, but
yeah, yeah,
I guess it's both at the same time. In one way you're disconnecting, or you're honing back in on everything that is your unique felt sense. For me, going to the Blue Mountains was a considered decision over the winter solstice to
mm,
really um, im- to really appreciate the season, and to really, like, there was an idea to go and get some sunshine and get out of the Melbourne cold winter, but I wanted to honor and really feel the cold and how nature presents itself in this beautiful environment in winter, and um, to breathe that beautiful air, to see that sacred land, and to feel that expansiveness that you can find in the Blue Mountains. It allows you to not only breathe, but this sense of your whole body to breathe, and your energy to breathe, and to have that space to expand and feel everything that touches upon the edges of who you are, and to remember that sense of expansion, to bring it in and then take it home with you.
I just so visualize the mountains and the trees and the mist in the morning. And like you said, the expansion is like all that space, and just breathing that all in and listening to the just nature in itself is what a gift to give to yourself that we don't do enough of. So
Isn't it funny that the thing that is most natural to us, nature, is
I
something that we
know.
need to kind of, make time to
And
go and
remind
immerse ourselves
ourselves.
in. Yeah, she's always there for us.
I know
So
it's not like she's ever left us, but we're pining for something that is part of who we are.
yeah.
So, yeah. So tell me, what is next for Lisa Ray in your current exploration of your art? And
What is next? So the continual development and expansion of depth of her, because she grows and evolves as I do, and the women around me do. So continuing to allow the unfoldment, and there I have many ideas, but there will be another exhibition in the future. There's no set date as yet. But the body of work with my flora it is expanding and blooming into new territories. And there is, I think, within all of us, I think in all of us, we all have a story, we all have a book. Whereas with my work, I'm creating a book of images and some writing to go along with that. Now that I've said that out loud, it's more real than it has been in my mind. But
wow.
it's something it's one of those things that's been there for years and years and years and years, and I've not actually known how it would look. But I can tell that it's getting closer, because I'm starting to see it, I'm starting to feel it, and I'm starting to know what, why, and yeah.
That's so beautiful. I could just see it, like these book of beautiful imagery with your poetry with it together. Like, how extraordinary of a book would that be? And what a gift for yourself as well to hold on to. Like, you've taken all these self-portraits along your journey. So to actually create something that's tangibly a book like that to share with the world, what a fabulous thing to give to yourself and to others, of course.
I think that's beautiful, a beautiful thing in our world of technology and seeing everything on a screen. To have something, I guess it again comes back into that felt experience, and having that tangible thing to hold, I think is really beautiful, to have something that you can see, touch, and treasure.
Definitely. And everything you do is so beautiful. So I can imagine it's just going to be an amazing book that I'm going to have my coffee table.
I'll send you one, Indy.
I love that so much. So I guess I won't take up too much of your time, but I thought I'd end with a few rapid fire questions. So the first one I'd like to ask you is, what is a favorite book? And I know this is a really hard question if you're a book fanatic like I am, but what is one book that has had a significant impact on you?
Yes, there are many. However, one that really stands out is a book that I read through the time of great change and transition of my life, and where I was kind of revisiting myself. And that would be Wild Love by Jill. I think I have it here. Wild Love by Jill Edwards. Jill spelled Gill Edwards.
Edwards, yeah.
So it says, discover the magical secrets of freedom, joy, and unconditional love. So within this book, she does touch upon all of those things. She touches upon the hero's journey.
I love that.
And reading this through a great time of transition was really, it helped me to find that sense of I think mostly what was important to me was that freedom and that unconditional love for self. And when we come from that space, you know, we do amazing things because we're really honoring who we are in that beautiful space of unconditional love. Fabulous book. I can't probably give it all the justice that it needs, but it was always with me, and I think I might revisit it. It's one that you can return to.
Yeah, I love that. This is why I asked the question, because it's always from different perspective, different books that I'm thinking while you're explaining, it's like, how have I not known what this book is? So,
Yeah, you'll love it.
oh, wonderful. Yep, I've got that written down. So thank you for sharing that. And my next other question is about best investment that you've ever made for yourself.
Oh, again, I think that, you know, over the time, I think investing in self growth, I love learning. So there is always something that I am learning new or reading about. They have all had their significant value. I think that whatever it is, that there's something to visit. Whether it was my studying yoga, I think that was a beautiful opportunity um, to visit an embodied practice and everything else that comes with it. As you know, it's not just the physical postures in yoga. There's so many beautiful depths and layers. But it could also be, I can't choose one, India. It could have been, you know, going on a retreat was equally as important as, you know, diving into energy healing, as was diving into art business practice.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I think to answer that question, whatever decision that you make or that you make to devote to your self-growth and self-learning is incredibly valuable, regardless of what it is.
It
Yeah.
so is, and it's so most people usually get stumped on that, like best investment in myself. So they see it from a monetary point of view, I guess. So it's interesting to hear your take on it because even buying, you know, your equipment for what you do can be such a not just an investment for your business, but for yourself. Do you know what I mean? Because it takes your art to a whole new level. So I love
Yeah.
that. And yes, you're so right with yoga. When I did yoga, I thought it was going to be about the asanas, but it just opened me up. Like life changing is what yoga is when you actually delve into that world. So it's beautiful. Even the Sanskrit itself is just gorgeous. So could spend hours, could write a whole thesis on that one. But
Yeah, it's coming. Maybe that's next.
oh, that'd be awesome. And my last question is, do you have a favorite ritual practice that you engage in to spark your creativity? I think we've already touched on this quite a lot. So,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
it's movement, whatever that might be. Putting on a song and getting those egg rattles, shamanic rattles out and shaking out the energy, or dancing around the house. I think any way that feels right in the moment to move that energy out of the body, to come back into that receptive, centered state, and everything starts getting a bit tingly because you've moved things around. And yeah, I think that's that movement, dance.
Oh, such a great answer. Yeah. Definitely movement. It's like for years I always felt like why hasn't life changed? Like in the past I was in that headspace of why doesn't life change? Why can't I manifest, you know, that kind of energy? And I didn't realize that the underlining thing that made change is the rippled effect of movement. So yeah, whether it's like you said, going to the Blue Mountains, or if it's like just dancing in your kitchen, or just
Yeah,
movement, or moving your body, or yeah,
yeah.
it's
I guess
extraordinary.
it's change, isn't it? It's changing your current state, your current physical position, your current energetic, you know, where has it settled. It's really shake up and change of environment. Yeah, you're so right. It's change. You're making change to make change.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Oh, well, this has been so amazing and so enjoyable to speak to you. I knew it was going to be extraordinary. I knew you had to delve into all. I'm sure I could talk to you for hours on
Oh,
end.
same, yeah, absolutely. It's been so awesome. Thank you for sharing
I
with me
so
today.
appreciate it. Can't wait to plaster you all through creating the Muse, which I have. Like all your art and all your portraits have been threaded through the magazine so beautifully. So thank you for allowing me to take a piece of you and yeah, just create something from it with your essence. So I'm really looking forward to sharing the magazine as well. So
Indiana, and thank you for sharing, with what you're doing, with how you're expressing, with all your layers of creativity as well. It's so valued and appreciated.
thank you so much. I guess I just have one more thing to wrap up. Where can people find you, Lisa?
Yes, you can find me at my website, www.lisaray.com.au, or you can pop onto Instagram. I'm floating around there at Lisa Ray.
Amazing. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Indiana.
Bye.
Bye.